All right, let's now go to Scott. If I can find my button here to get out of here. And Scott, talk to me, sir. We're gonna
Yep.
wait,
Are you
Scott,
ready?
hold on. One second, Scott. I'm going to mute the entire membership right now. And that is so that we don't get a lot of background sound, because some members don't realize they have the audio on when they're watching the Jeopardy show or Big Wheel or whatever it is called. So right now, if you unmute yourself, this is Scott. He's going to do a little demo, and look at that. That's cool.
So tonight we're gonna make some jewelry. Here's some ideas that I have set up on another table so you can see what I got. This is some of the things I use for patterns. These are spinnerbait blades that you can buy at your local sporting goods store. So you can use those as a pattern to lay out patterns to make stuff like this. I'm going to slide these over so you can see them. The orange one was one of these blades. I used it as a pattern. Same with this green one. That was a blade. Then I turn them on the lathe and dome them, or cup the back if you want. It's a little tougher to cup the back to hold them, but there's ways to do it. Some other things you can do to make patterns. You can go to the, forgive me because I'm jumping around a little. You can go to the drafting sections of your store, your craft stores, and buy templates that come with oval patterns in them. So you can use it to trace on your wood to cut out your oval patterns. Now the oval patterns I cut with either my bandsaw. You could use a jigsaw if you have a big enough board to hold on to, or you could use a scroll saw, whatever you happen to have in your shop. Or you can get crazy like I do with these, and you can draw them by hand and cut them out by hand. I sell a lot of these. I call them flying hearts because they always have a little swoosh to them. If you can get that in the camera where you can see it.
Towards you a little bit. There you go.
So there's a little swoosh to it. I try to find wood that has two different colors for my hearts. It just adds to the look. And this you can turn on the lathe as well if you want to dome it, or you can sand it on the lathe on a sanding disc, and that's usually what I do. So for practicing for the demo this week, I made this one. I can get it centered. Get these other ones out of the way. Brenda, what do you see in that? Right here is a spider. Looks like a spider crawling out over the top of that knot.
Looks like a clam shell.
My wife's seen that, and now it's hers. It was going to go up in the sale bin, but now it's hers.
Pull it back towards you just a little bit, please, sir.
How's that?
That's much better.
Okay. So that was turned on Mr. Duckberry's jig. I used his jig to do that. So then I had to try what Matt was showing last week, and I did one with an offset hole. And it has grooves in it, which you really can't see in the camera. There's two.
Oh, we see them.
Very cool, Scott.
So it works. The other thing that I like to do, this piece here, I'm looking at a TV screen and doing it on the camera. So this piece here is out of the same wood, so it'll have a matching earring. And that's what I'm going to start off showing you how to make first, and then I'll get into making some pendants.
Oh.
So that's pretty hard to hold. So what I do is I start out, I'm going to move you now for a second. So hold on to your eyes. I'm going to move you around the shop because I only have one camera.
If you turn that on my jig, I'm going to quit.
That I did not turn on your jig, believe it or not, but I'm going to figure out how to do it. Just give me a chance. Okay. Get the camera where you can see what I'm doing. So right there in my drill press, here's the piece of wood that I just showed you that I cut the medallion out of. It's right here. This is a plug cutter that people use for cutting plugs for their wood projects to cover screws. They also work really good for making earrings. So we're gonna do that quick for you. Grab me a pair of safety glasses. So I just get this around. Hopefully my arms aren't in the way. I'm gonna get this on a piece of this wood where I can see it. I gotta turn the fan on because this stuff really stinks and it burns.
Do those plug cutters come in different sizes?
Yep, I'll show those in a minute. I have a
Okay.
box of them. So, and they come in different styles. Some work better than others. This particular one I don't care for a whole lot, but here we go. And you'll see why I don't like it. Well, where did my plug go? Usually stays in the machine. There it is. So there's your plug.
Back up.
There we go. There's your plug. This style of plug cutter is just like a sharpened, I don't know what you want to call it. I'll take it out of here and try to show it to you. It's not a very good thing. There's better ones on the market. These are the ones I started with. So it's got an end. It's just a tapered shank with a slot cut in it that cuts the cutters. I don't know how well you can see that. I can't see it very well, but
Yeah, I see it good.
okay. That's one type. And this is the other type. This one has like sharpened teeth on it, kind of like a skew or a scraper maybe. And it cuts a lot better.
And that's called the same thing?
And yep, it's just a different style of plug cutter.
Okay.
So this one, the first one I use cuts a 1/2 inch plug. This one cuts a 3/8 plug, which is probably about as small an earring as you want to try to make, the way I make them. When I get Mr. Duxbury's jig figured out, I am going to make them on there because I want to be able to I want to put grooves in them and not have to carve them by hand. And they come even smaller than that. This one here is an 1/8 inch plug cutter.
Oh my.
So you can get them pretty small. And then they go all the way up to,
Back up.
there we go.
Not too far. There you
Okay,
go.
that one's I believe that's 5/8 or 3/4. I'm not sure. I'd have to measure it. But that's the style that I just cut with. And they don't cut as nice as the other ones. They tend to burn. If you're using cherry or maple, they're gonna burn and you gotta work a little bit better to get the edges when you go to make them into earrings.
How thick is that board you just cut?
So all my jewelry stock starts out at around 3/8 of an inch approximately. And sometimes I buy boards straight from Woodcraft. Sometimes I make my own on my own bandsaw. Whatever you want to do. Okay. So that's how I start my earrings. Don't holler at me because I left the truck key in there. So now I'm going to move you over and put you by the lathe. Can you see that pretty well? How about maybe this angle will be better? Move this light out of my way.
A little higher.
There we go. So now I have that chuck in my pin jaws. And I'm not brave enough to turn that with a tool. Because I want 2 earrings out of this. I'm going to split this in half and I'm going to get 2 earrings out of one piece. That's why I make them 3/8 of an inch thick. Because you can split it in half and that's just about the right thickness for an earring to put on the pin back. So this is what I'm going to eventually mount it to. This is just a earring pin back that you can buy at any hobby store or jewelry store that sells jewelry making stuff. So now I'm going to take this. I'm running pretty fast. I'm going to start out with 100 grit sandpaper. I've made my own sanding stick. Well, this really isn't turning, I guess. It is on a lathe. So this is my sanding stick for shaping the earring. So I take a stick, put 100 on one side, 220 on the other, and then I make one with 400 and 320 on it. And don't do that. Now I'm going to put my safety glasses back on. You're just going to shape this. And I find the jewelry sells better when you have earrings that match. You don't have to get crazy with shaping this. You just want it to have a little bit of a dome to it. It doesn't have to be super domed.
Hey, Scott, is there any reason you didn't use the foam back pads to do that?
It doesn't stay on there. I can't get, when you got it sticking out 3/8 of an inch, it won't stay on there. Oh, you mean on the sandpaper? I just use spray adhesive. Then I want to get rid of it. I just peel it off and just put a new piece on my block. Yeah, you could use foam if you wanted to. This is just what I have around. And there you have it. I don't know how well you can see that, but it's pretty shiny already. So now I would just take this, I'm going to flip it over and I just do the other side, but I won't do that, but I'll show you how I cut this off. So now I take a saw that's got teeth on one side, set on one side. This one's made by Stanley. There's lots of them out there. I marked the side that doesn't have the set on it so you don't use it backwards and wreck it, because I'm going to use the face of my pin jaws now to cut this off. So now I'm just going to take this and set this on here. Don't do this after you've made all your pendants and you got a ton of sawdust laying around, because you will definitely end up losing 1/2. Just like that. Falls down in the lathe and then you got to figure out where it went.
Might be a good idea to put a board across your lathe bed.
Yep.
A napkin.
Something
Towel.
soft that it wouldn't bounce. That piece I know is in there because it didn't fall all the way through.
One of the things that I have that I put on the lathe bed for this sort of thing is a big sort of rubber boot holder thing, you know, it'll hold 4 or 5 pairs of boots. It's got
Yep.
raised lips on it. That catches them really well.
Yeah, it does great. So now you have this piece that's stuck in the pin jaws. And you don't want to lose that one. So I'm just going to stick a dowel in the other end, and there it is. So if I had this end finished, already domed, now I'll take it over. I'm going to move you one more time. Sorry, I'm moving you around so much, but I'm trying to do it the way I do it.
Well, our sponsor Dramamine appreciates this.
Okay. So can you see this? Okay, there you go. So this is my sanding block. So I go to our local home improvement stores, and every now and then they change out their granite displays. So you can get a piece of granite like this. It's about 1.5 inches thick, and it's one side is shiny and smooth and flat, and the other side is not. So you can put it on your surface, and now you have a flat surface to sand these flat on the back. So I have 220, 320, 400. The sand is flat. I'm just going to push it up back and forth with the grain. A few strokes on each one of these. Now it's ready to glue on the pin back.
Hmm.
And then I just take E6000 glue and glue it onto the pin back, which is flat. Any questions so far? Well, that's how I make the earrings to match the necklaces.
Do
If you
put a
don't-
finish on the wood?
Yes, I after I sand it and before I glue it on the back, I'll take some DAF lacquer and I lacquer them. And because I got my wood stove running right now, I don't want to spray the lacquer in here. That might not be a good situation unless you want to hear a loud noise. But yeah, they do spray them with lacquer. I spray all my jewelry with lacquer except for the resin pieces I just polish. So that's got 2 or 3 coats of lacquer on it just to make it shiny. So now to make my pendants, I cheat a little bit because I like them to be kind of a specific size when I start. So I use hole saws. This is a 2-inch. This is 1 3/4. And the one I'm going to do for you tonight is going to be 2 1/8. So you don't get a 2 1/8 blank out of that. And I do go up to a 2 1/2. Because it's cutting on the inside of the hole saw. So your hole saw is 2-inch on the outside diameter. You end up with about 1 7/8 to 1 3/4, depending on how new your hole saw is for your actual diameter of your pendant. So I'm going to put a piece of this on here. Bring you back over here again. One more time of dizziness. You really got to invest in another camera. So when I'm picking out boards for pendants, I'm trying to find unusual spots in the board. I don't care about the waist because I'll use that for making the earrings. But I like these knots. I like to highlight these knots. So when I put my hole saw in, and by the way, I've taken the center drill out of the hole saw. You can, as long as you're running in a drill press, you can get away with not having the center in it. Don't do that with a regular drill. You got to do it in a drill press. So I want to take this and make this knot area in my pendant. So now I'm going to take and lift you guys up just a little so you can see. I'm going to take and, without the machine running, I'm going to run it down, and in this hole saw, it's got slots. And I can see in the hole saw so I can get it where I want it around that knot. I'll hold it down with the drill press till I get my clamp on my board. Because you can't hold these boards as much as you try, you can't hold them. I'm going to turn my drill press on. Simple as that. And I'm going to take a screwdriver and just pop this out of here like that. Now you can see I got that. Tilt this back down. Get that in the focus. Now you can see I have that knot somewhere in the pendant. You can put it in the center, you can offset it, whatever you want to do. So now I'll take that piece and we're going to change out the pin jaws on my lathe quick. And put in Mr. Duxbury's jig.
I have to go now.
It works. It was a little learning curve for me, Jim, but I got it to work. So now I have it in there. I have it indexed to 0. I take double stick tape and stick it to a mandrel. I have the mandrel indexed so that if I want to turn it, I can turn it. Or if I want to take it off, I can take it off and get it back in the same position. I think Jim did that with his too, I believe.
Yeah.
So then you just get this in here really tight, because these do like to come out of here. I learned that. Any questions so far? So I've used double stick tape to stick that on there. I'll run my tailstock up, push on this for a few minutes with a lot of pressure just to make sure that it's stuck good. I'm going to take a square carbide cutter, negative rake, and I'm just going to make it round. So I've made it roughly round. The back edge doesn't have any tear out. I don't care about the front because I'm going to round that over anyways. I'm going to slide my tool rest in here. This is the tricky part. As you can see, I took Mr. Duxbury's jigs and knocked the corners off to give me a little clearance for turning these, or it makes me feel a little safer anyways. Gotta adjust my tool rest a little. Let's just quit spinning.
Scott is showing us technique for doing these pendants. Right now, if your brain is saying, can I this, can I that? What if I wire burn? What if I do this? What if I do that? It's in the rules. You can do anything you want. Think about it all the way through.
So when I round these over, I like to get these so that there's like a 16th or less of this edge here showing. It makes the pendant, even though it's 3/8 of an inch thick, it makes the pendant appear thinner than what it really is. So that's about as far as I'm going to take it like that, because I'm going to try to use Mr. Duxbury's jig and do an offset hole in here. Hopefully it doesn't fly off. So when I get it to this point, it's pretty smooth. I'm probably going to start sanding at 320 and only do up to 400. So I'm just going to touch this real quick. Got to remember that thing's spinning over here, so keep your fingers out of the way. That's why I built a mandrel, a long mandrel, to keep my fingers away from that fancy chuck. And no, I haven't hit my fingers yet, and I don't want to either.
When you do
We
it
got
the
plenty.
second,
We got plenty of time. We'll wait for you.
it's when you do it the second time that it hurts.
Is
Yeah.
that what it is? So you can see there, it's got a pretty good shine on it. Can't really get my camera around to the face of it. The light's washing it out. So now I'm going to offset it and drill a hole in it like Matt did last week. I mean, some of this is going to be a little repetitive. Matt kind of helped me figure out how I'm going to do this. Thanks,
Cool.
Matt.
Hey, it's all positive reinforcement, Scott. Good to
Thanks,
see
Matt.
people using what I demonstrated.
So I'm going to slide this over. I'll spin it around after I get this tightened up. As you can see on my,
No, we
Chuck.
can't see that. It's off camera.
there we
There
go.
you go.
I have my increment set at 1/4 inch out to 1 1/4 inches. I don't know if I'd ever spin this at 1 1/4 inches, but there may be someday I'm going to try it on a bigger pendant. So I got that set there. Put my tailstock back on. And I'm going to find my stuff that I laid out ahead of time. Oops, that ain't going to work.
We lost your camera.
Uh-oh. There we go.
We
Well,
found
I'm
it again.
There we go.
All I'm doing now, I'll show you, is I'm just putting in a drill chuck. And this is 7/16 drill bit. Just gonna put this in here. Make sure it's good and tight.
2-inch, the 2-inch hole cutter, right?
This one is 2 1/8. Started out as a 2 1/8,
Okay.
but you can do 1 3/4 inches, looks pretty good. 2-inch looks pretty good. 2 1/2 is a personal preference. I don't like how big they are. They do sell ones that are made out of 2 1/2, but I just don't like the way they look. Better with the light or without. Get this in here without hitting the camera.
Can you get it to focus?
It's on
Without the light.
autofocus.
Without light.
There we go. How's that?
Without the light washes it out.
All right. So now I'm going to do just exactly what Matt did. Is drill a hole in this. I'm going to make sure this is extra tight because I had one of these fly out of here the other day. Wasn't cool.
Yeah, I like the smaller initial holes. I mean, it all depends on what kind of cord you're using. but the smaller initial holes seem neater to me, but you can widen them if they're small, you know.
Yep.
I usually go with a 1/4 inch, but you can make them wider if you want them to be
Yep.
wider.
So I am gonna smooth this hole out when I'm done, so I'll show you that.
Yep, I was seeing that on your other ones.
So I'm gonna just drill this in.
Whoa, Dramamine, take effect, please.
Sorry,
I think I'm back in the 60s again.
here, hang on. I
Don't
can
tell on
fix that
yourself.
problem.
You don't have enough hair.
You might be giving us too much information there.
Is that better, Eddie?
Yeah. Hey, bro, it works for me, man.
Eddie, if you can remember the 60s, you weren't there.
Like crazy.
I was a member of Uncle Sam's Flying Circus in the 60s. So I remember all that stuff.
Gonna go just a hair farther. So I try to use a contrasting mandrel color than the wood that I'm using. And I know when I'm drilled all the way through it. Like that. Get rid of this because we don't need it anymore.
Can we see what it looks like right now, Scott?
Sure. Just let me get this tailstock out of the way.
Yeah, no pressure, dude.
I'll swing you around and show you the hole.
Forstner bit versus a twist drill bit.
I haven't tried a Forstner bit. I don't have any that go that small. The smallest one I have is 1 inch.
I don't usually worry about the Forstner bit. I mean, I use one on the drill press if I'm gonna, clean up the hole a bit, but I know that I'm gonna be in there with a tool to clean it up anyway. So I don't really worry about whether or not the hole's rough from a drill bit.
Okay.
But you could certainly use a Forstner bit. I have used Forstner bits on these.
Back it up.
I was just thinking it gives you a cleaner hole.
Yep, it
That
does.
hole-
Yeah.
That hole's pretty smooth inside.
Yeah, but I'll look at the brisance over the twist drill bit compared to a Forstner bit. Is that twist bit is cutting with one edge of one blade, and all the forces of that cutting is going to that point versus a Forstner bit, which same thing cuts at one edge, but it's more stabilized. I'd worry about the movement, especially if you're using a piece of wood that's slightly punky. The Forstner probably do less damage. But we all agree if we start small, you can always go with a fine trimming tool and shape it up to whatever you want.
That's right. So you can see that hole is pretty smooth inside. It's as smooth as you'd get with a Forstner bit. It isn't rough inside. So now I'm gonna shape that hole a little bit. And I gotta move you guys around a little again. Because I gotta take my tailstock off.
Tell you the truth, I've never drilled one. I always just turn it out.
When I make these, I want to do them fast. That's the only reason I'm drilling them.
You got me there. I don't do anything fast.
Well, I'm making these for production is to sell. So I want them to be quick and easy. This block I made just doesn't working for me today. There we go. So there's the hole. You can see it's pretty shiny, smooth inside.
No, we're not seeing it, Scott.
Can't see the,
There you go.
there's the hole. Now I gotta find my tool in my drawer full of goodies. They don't use this one that often. So I'm going to use a carbide bowl hollower by Easy Wood, and that's what I'm going to use to round that hole out. Which I got too low. I don't know if you guys can see that well.
Looks like a donut.
Yep. So it's hollowed out here, which you can't see on the, I can't see on my camera, but maybe it shows up better to you guys. So I've hollowed that out about half the thickness. I'll probably go just a little bit more. Kind of like the way it is right now. Now we'll see if I can put some grooves in it. So I'm going to do like Matt did. I'm going to draw my grooves. Just so I can kind of see where they're going to be. And I'm not measuring them. I'm just doing them by eye. And then I'm going to use, not that one, this one. I'm not sure what this tool's called, but that's what I'm going to use to make my grooves.
Fair point.
Point tool or diamond tool.
Yep.
That's one of the free ones you get from Harbor Freight. Yes.
This one's really old. It's an old Craftsman, but it's got pretty good steel in it. I'm going to come in at a slight angle. Try to do the same angle again.
Brenda, I can almost hear Clearwater Creek Revival playing in the background.
So there's my grooves. I can get turn the light off. Maybe there's my grooves.
Oh.
So that would be a done pendant for me now. I wouldn't do anything. If you wanted to color the grooves, you could color the grooves if you wanted to. The only thing I found with this point tool is that you can't go back and make them deeper. So you got to kind of, hopefully you get it where you want it the first time. Because trying to go back and hit that same angle again doesn't work. Or I haven't figured out how to make it work. I'm sure there's a way I could make a jig to put on my tool rest or draw a line on here so that I knew where I had the tool and what angle I had it at. I'm sure you could do that if you wanted to. I just try to, they are what they are. And I keep this tool razor sharp so that there's very little sanding in there unless you're using something pretty soft. This cherry cuts really nice.
What do you do to the back of it?
I don't do anything to the back, Trace. I just sand it flat. So now when I'm done with this, if this was done, I'll bring this over here so Eddie doesn't get any more dizzy.
Hey, man, I'm enjoying it, man.
So then I just bring it back to the sanding block again. And I'll just grab one that I haven't done yet. And I'll just sand them. Sand them through each grit. Just like that. Just so there's.
The way people wear them, they wear them with the grooves out, so the back is against their skin or against a
Yep.
shirt or something. It works
Yep.
best if those corners are rounded.
Well, my corners are rounded already.
Okay.
When I sanded this the first time, this mandrel's a little smaller than my pendant. If you can see that, that's a pretty good picture of it. I rounded them over. I rounded them over with the sandpaper.
Gotcha. Okay.
And what I do, Matt, is I pre-sand these. So like these, I cut on the bandsaw. You
Right.
can see this one's got some saw marks in it. I try to get those out before I stick it on the mandrel, so I have less
Yeah,
sanding to do at the end.
Yeah, it holds on the tape better if that's good and sanded smooth too.
Right. Yep. So I sand them to 400 before I stick them on here,
Okay, and you get the edges at that point.
and I get the edges at that point. And being proud of my mandrel here, I can round these over just slightly as I sand it, power sand it.
Gotcha. Okay, cool.
I sand and finish the back of it before I stick it on there. It helps it to hold better.
You can do that too. I just, because of the way I finish, I have to clean my shop and I finish everything first. I guess I could finish them all before I put them on.
I don't clean my shop for anything.
Good move, Jim. Good move.
I don't, I just,
So the way that Jim's jig works here, because I put this fancy stop on it, he showed us a couple weeks after he showed us the first time.
that's how you sell the second model,
That's right.
Yeah.
the new improved version.
So now, because I have witness marks in a few key places, one on that side, I know that that's right back in the center. If I want to come back and sand this now, I can come back and lightly sand this and knock off any fuzz, or as Matt was saying, round these back edges off if I forgot to do that the first time. So then it's like that. So let's see, where can I go from there? I guess I'll show you how.
Folks, if you're trying to do this, remember when he goes back to round that corner, that little bitty piece of double stick tape sticking out. If you have too much double stick tape, double stick sticking out, you'll be pulling it off the mandrel. The whole thing will come with you. It doesn't matter what it sticks to, it sticks.
This carpet tape I use is horrible, by the way. I'm going to try to peel this off for you guys just so you can see how hard it peels. But you can see this stringiness. It peels off. I pushed it back flat.
That's because it got hot.
That's because it got hot. But one of the good things about this cheap Ace brand carpet tape is
You can use it again.
you can use it. I found that I can use it up to about 8 times before it releases, where it won't work at all anymore.
Yeah, it really helps to put this tailstock pressure on it to hold it too. That works well.
Yep. So I'm just going to show you that quick.
Now, one thing you can do if you're getting sticky stuff on your pieces, you can put blue painter's tape on your piece and then stick the blue painter's tape to the double-sided tape.
Yep.
There you go.
That's a good idea.
And you
And
get,
then
and it's a cleaner surface, and it will come off if you can't get the other tape off.
Yep. So then I just,
And if you pre-finish them like Jim Duxbury said, the blue tape will stick even better and come off even cleaner.
That's correct.
so that's how I press them on. And I just, I got a lot of pressure on there. There's a lot of pressure up against that. And it's stuck. This one I just took off. It doesn't have a lot of residue on it. It's pretty good. And I'm gonna lightly sand it again anyways. So it won't have any stickiness to it, but it really's got a nice pattern to it. There you can see the pattern well.
Yes.
So one more thing I'm gonna show you, and then that's pretty much it, except for if you want to see me make the necklace part of it. And I guess I'll show you one more thing after that. I'm gonna move you over here. To this view. And get this to sit here. So you don't have to have thin pieces to start with. I took a hole saw, drilled into this block, but I didn't drill all the way through it. So now if you want to get some circles out of that, you can just turn your bandsaw on. Get a push stick, keep your fingers out of the way. And I got this set so it'll cut a 3/8 or a little larger circle.
It's a good idea. Then you don't have to try to dig it out of your hole saw.
Exactly. The other thing that it does, it leaves a lot cleaner edges.
Sure.
And then you can make them whatever thickness you want too. If you wanted them thicker or thinner, whatever. This piece of wood had some really pretty figure in it by this knot. The rest of it's not good enough to turn, so it got used for pendants.
Great idea.
So it's a
Things we
good way
learn
to use
every week.
good way to use little cutoffs. And actually you can see I got another, if I get it to centered on the camera, I got another, there's at least one more in there, maybe two more before I gotta throw this piece in the burn pile.
That way would be a real good idea for the earrings.
Yep. And I can take smaller pieces here and make the earrings at them so it's got some figure in it to match as well.
Wow.
You can use trans tint markers to highlight some of that grain if you want. This is a full set. They're a dye marker. They work just like dyes, like RIT dye or any other dye, except they're in a marker form. They're like a Sharpie, basically. So they have just a real hardened tip. I've used them with the lathe spinning to decorate stuff. They seem like they hold up pretty well. I've had these for 2 or 3 years. You just got to make sure you get the lid snapped on tight. So when I finish these, I typically finish. I'll move you back over here and sit down and show you some other stuff. Put the camera on that one. Get my chair back out of the way.
Yeah,
So when I finish
the rope, how are you tying the necklace to it?
That's what I'll show you next. So I normally finish this side on the lathe. I spray it on the lathe. And then to finish the backs, I found that real large pill bottles and that size work really well. It's just a way to hold it, and it also keeps the finish from going around the edge if you get too much on it. It sits in there real nice. Another use for old pill bottles. So now there's different ways that you can hold these, however you want to hold them. This one here has got a flat back on it. but the cord just goes through it. And I have a little teeny rare earth magnet in it. And I sell these by the oodles, because now the ladies can take and change pendants whenever they want. And they just buy multiples of different colors or different wood patterns or whatever, and they can just pull it off and change it. It's fully magnetic. So that's one way of holding it on. The other way is to drill a little itty bitty hole in there, which I have a old fashioned twist drill that I drill the holes with by hand. And I just put a little hole in there. And then I don't know if you can see that split ring, but it's a split ring that you can buy at the jewelry making stores, Hobby Lobby, Michael's, all those places will have them. They come in a bunch of different colors.
That's beautiful. What's that wood?
That's actually, that's not wood.
Oh.
That is, if I can get it in the camera, that is actually a piece of bottle stopper blank. It's acrylic. It makes beautiful jewelry, and it's a lot of times it becomes translucent, so the ladies like it because as you shine light on it, it makes it do different things. So you can see in here, I'll hold this up. These are called pinch bales. And they just spread apart, and you drill that same little hole that you would for the split ring. You pull it apart, and then you can pinch it through the holes. And these also come in all different shapes, sizes, colors, stainless steel, whatever. You think what I'm going to do for these ones with the hole in them? I just buy cord. This is just artificial leather cord. And the ones with the holes, I'm just going to tie them through like this. And attach them like so. And if you want to get really fancy, you can dress them up a little. And put a little tube bail on it, just a little hollow metal tube, just to dress it up. And that also keeps it from coming untied. Then the back for the clasp part, I would just use this. I just crimp that on the end of the.
We can't see it.
And I'm looking over my shoulder at the camera at the same time. So these are just crimped on the ends. They're just crimp. They call them crimps, cord crimps, or jewelry crimps, depending on where you buy them. And then they already have the hook on them and a little piece of chain to extend them. Most jewelry lengths are 18 to 22 inches for the length of your cord. And they're easy to make. There's nothing to make in one. I can show you real quick, maybe on this fat cord. I got some parts here. See if I can do this on camera. So this is your little crimp. Get it where you can see it. There's your little crimp that you're going to crimp on the end of the cord. They have special pliers that don't have any teeth on them. They're smooth. So now you can see I got that piece of cord in there, and you just pinch these over. onto the cord like so. Turn it around. And there it's on the end of the cord. And then you just use a split ring to attach the portion of the clasp. Any questions? And you can buy your necklaces pre-made. My wife and I make jewelry, so we have all the components around to make whatever we want. Pin backs also come different sizes. These are a little smaller diameter. Pin back for earrings, for the post style earrings. If you wanted to make dangling earrings, you can buy, they're called fish hook earrings. And you would drill a little hole in there and then use a split ring or a snap ring, which I can get one out of a box and kind of show you what they look like. I'll lay a shiny one on that piece of wood. Jewelry making can be like wood turning. You can end up with a lot of stuff. So this is just a split ring. It's just got a split in it. And you take a pair of pliers and you twist it back and forth, open the ring up, twist it back, and it'll line right back up and stay nice and round. That's basically it for the demo, unless there's some questions.
I got a question.
Sure.
The other shapes, you would do those, you would turn those the same way?
Sure. You want me to do one quick? I have one mounted up.
Sure, yeah, show us that.
Hold on, Eddie. Dramamine.
Close your eyes, Eddie.
Oh, wow. Man, this, I gotta get my passport.
Back on the flight line.
Well, hey, Trey,
Definitely gonna make you go, Eddie.
Yeah. Hey, Trey, can you set me up for co-host?
So I'm gonna. So you don't have to use Mr. Duxbury's jig if you don't want to. You can use a chuck like this and just make your mandrel fit in this, or you can use your pin jaws if you want to. The only advantage to his system is you can make it offset.
Right.
That's the advantage. That's what I like about it. I'm just going to loosen this up. Pop that out of there. This is the other thing that's nice about his system, is you can have multiple ones set up and ready to go. And there's ones finishing up. You can switch and do another one if you wanted to finish them as you were going.
Or if you're like dyeing them and you want to give the dyes time to dry, or you turn the next one.
Yep, exactly. Try to slide you in a little closer. There we go. So this is just mounted on a round mandrel.
Is it an oval shape?
It's an oval shape that I've cut out by hand or cut out. See how well this works. See if I can knock the camera over. So now I got it mounted on there. I'm going to set this down a little lower. Find my square carbide cutter. I like to use a lot of carbide on the resins. You can use any kind of tool you want, I guess. I just use carbide because that's what I'm comfortable with. Now, obviously, you're not going to turn the outside edge now because you can't turn an oval on a round machine. So now I'm just going to round this off. Just going to detail it. Light cuts. Or this will come off and go flying just like that. Probably about time for a new piece of tape on there. Like I said, probably about time for a new piece of tape. But you can see that I'm getting it rounded over. It's actually leaving an oval pattern in the center. If you want to leave an oval pattern in the center. Let me see if I can get a new piece of tape on here. This stuff is terrible. Actually, I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to cheat.
One of my most efficient actions in the shop are cheating.
So rather than do it on that little mandrel, one other way to tighten these up is if you don't want to use your tailstock, a bench vise will do the same thing. It'll add enough pressure to it to make it stick. I haven't done one on a big one like this for a while, so we'll see how this works. This might be an experiment for all of us. So basically all I did is switch mandrels, one with a little newer piece of tape. I've done quite a few on this little one. See how this works for us. Now, obviously I didn't get it in the same position, so it's going to come out a little different. And you can see that it's rounding it off. A little more on one edge. Let me slide the camera over a little so you can see that. It's a little thinner here and a little thicker there. And that's the nice part about somebody's jig is now if I want to change that profile and make it any shape I want. Now I got this indexed. I'm going to get a pencil. We'll call this number 1. Loosen this up just a little more. Can twist this a little bit. And I'll call this number 2. So what I'm doing is turn this way. So I have a straight 90 degrees here to to this line as well, and to this line over here. And I just moved it approximately 1/4 of an inch, tightened it back up, and I just turned this. I didn't move this up here. I just turned the mandrel itself, and it should give us a little different pattern. Which it did. Now the sides are a little thinner, and this didn't change. So it's got a curve this way now. And since we're experimenting, if you guys want me to do a little more, let's try moving it on the other axis once. Just because I want to see what it does.
Also, if you polish that piece to a mirror, you almost have to do it on each center before you index it.
That is correct. Yep. You'd have to polish it as you go, because you'll never get it back to where it was. But I'll show you a neat little trick that I did before I started doing them on the lathe. After we get to see what this does. So I moved it over 1/4 of an inch this way on my indexer. Right there. I moved it to the next line. Let's see what kind of pattern that does. Now it's off, it's wobbling, so we'll see. Should be interesting if I can keep it on there. That's an interesting shape. Made one side thicker than the other. So this side is thin. This side is thick. So I mean, there's hundreds of things you could do.
So
Actually,
is this giving you, are there facets in this now too?
Yep, it just I was just gonna say, Matt, it just looks like it faceted it to me.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay, cool. Thanks.
So if I slid it 1/4 of an inch the other way, I think this side would get thinner to match this side.
And you'd put another facet on it.
You'd put another facet on it. So
Now, all right, now let's say you wanted to facet it all the way around. Would you then rotate it and do the same offsets?
yes, I'm experimenting with this, just like you're talking, Matt. I've never done that. So I would assume that as long as you know how you rotated it, I mean, you're going to have a pad of paper. So if you want to duplicate them, you can duplicate them.
Yeah, keep records, man. I'm with you, brother.
You'd have to keep a record of what you did and how you did it to get your facets to come out.
Coming from the ornamental side, rotating is more precise than trying to do the offset, trying to offset it the other way.
Yep. I would agree with that.
You can rotate it 180 degrees and they'll come out really close and you won't be able, the facets will be the same shape.
Well, I can do that. I can rotate this.
Let's do one more iteration on this, Scott.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm fascinated, so to speak.
Well, let me try rotating it 180 degrees because I have a mark that's 180 degrees from that one.
Do you do this, Jim, with yours? Have you faceted things with this?
No, I do one or two. I don't know whether it's accurate enough to do a facet.
Well,
Sorby makes a check for $550 that will do faceting. It's also about a 3-week project to learn a thing. It comes with 3 books of
$100
instruction and a DVD.
Well, I look at it like this. I'm not going to end up making 2 of them that are the same.
No, that's for sure.
But,
Lord
but I'm
help
go-
you if you have to, I tell you.
but I'm going to market them as a handmade, one of a kind. And we were talking earlier about how you price things. Well, I used to make custom furniture years ago, long before I started wood turning. And I always told my customers, I can't make what they make in the store for what they sell it for. But if you want a piece of furniture that looks like that piece of furniture and fits your space and willing to pay my price for a handmade custom furniture, table or whatever it was,
Yeah.
that I sold more pieces that way than I ever did trying to sell pieces at a craft show. Because as soon as people found out that I could make it fit their room and make it look similar to what was in the store and in better quality than what you can buy in the store, I didn't have any problem selling stuff.
Yeah, or
And-
and a wood of their choice, because you know,
And a
people are
wood of
using-
their choice.
people are using standard stock woods, and yeah,
And
if you're doing
then,
it like,
then if you take photographs of stuff where you highlight sections in the wood, like I picked those knot eyes out to highlight my pendants, those sell twice as fast as just a dyed one or a simple pendant, because
Yep.
it's unique. There's never going to be another one like that, because God didn't create another knot that looked exactly like that one.
There you go.
So you have to market yourself or market your product accordingly. And that's how I sell stuff. I sell in a touristy area. People from Chicago, Minneapolis, big cities come there to vacation. They pay big bucks for stuff. I bring that same product to my hometown and go to the local shows. I'm lucky if I get half of what I get for it
Yeah.
in the touristy place. And I
And
have
when you
more
market-
lookers here.
Gotta
Go
know
ahead,
your
Dave.
market.
Know
Yeah,
your
you just
market.
gotta know your market.
And know your shows. If it's a craft show that's judged, you got a better chance of getting higher prices, because the people expect higher prices at a judged craft show, where you have to send pictures of your product before they allow you in the show. I don't know how many of you guys have shows like that, but we have a lot of shows here in the northern part of Wisconsin that are judged, and you gotta 6 months before the show, you gotta send in pictures of your work or former work to even get considered to be in the show.
Right.
yeah, they'll
and-
call them juried
like that
art
for the one
shows
I
or
go
something
to.
like that.
Yep.
Yeah, and
So-
you're right. The tourist areas, the tourist hotspots sell a lot better.
Yep. I do 1 or 2 shows a year, and I make enough at 1 or 2 shows a year to support my hobby. I'm not trying to make a living. I just want to be able to support my hobby. So I just turned this 180 degrees, so let's see what it does. I'm just curious. Hey, that's pretty cool. Not only did it create another facet, but it made it even on all the sides, from one side to the other on the oval. So this side here, now I don't think you can see it on camera, is exactly the same as this one over here. And I got a big facet here in the middle. And it's faceted all the way point to point, right down the middle.
There you go.
So, and there's a lot of other facets in it. I mean, it's definitely like a stone, like a faceted stone. So
Great job, Scott.
Jim was saying that you got to polish these as you do them. That's not necessarily true. So when I first started making these oval ones, I polished them by hand with micro pads. So you can polish this with a micro pad. And I'm doing this without water, so it'd be better if I used a little water. which I have some here. Hang on a second.
Man, for a minute, I thought he was just gonna spit on it.
I thought about it, Eddie. I did. I really did.
Oh, man. I know some little fat dago that used to do demonstrations online. He did that a couple of times and people really got upset.
Probably works better than water.
Well, it's instant. I mean, it was there.
We used to call it tongue oil.
Yeah, there you go. So if you polish this by hand with micro mesh and you use a good sharp carbide tool and good tool presentation, you can see how much that shined up already. And that's just one grit. And I polished it by hand.
Now, if you polish and go through the primary grits when by stage on the lathe, you can keep those facets better
Yep, you could. Yep.
and it won't knock the corners off.
But I'm really
Remember,
not.
this was a learning process right here doing the facets, so
Yeah. But
just,
actually,
we're all seeing it at the same time he's doing it for the first time.
so this pad is pretty spongy, and I'm not using a lot of pressure on this. So I'm really not knocking a lot of those facets off. All I'm doing is kind of making them not, they were a little sharp when I started.
You're
You know, it
smoothing
feels
them.
so yep, you're just kind of laying them over. I'm gonna try one more thing, just because I'm curious how it's gonna work. So I'm gonna go back to my car polish and just see what that does once. Because really that was pretty smooth from the tool itself. Try not to spill that because it makes a heck of a mess.
How would you know that?
Because I just did it this afternoon. I had to go in before the meeting and change my jeans because I had it on my jeans and it didn't look very nice on my jeans. Looked like something else, and we'll leave that to your imagination.
Was that a scrap piece of epoxy that you had, or what was it?
No, actually, it was a good piece.
Okay.
Look at the shine on that. That's just car polish.
Looks
Yeah.
nice.
Ooh.
I
That's
like
just
that.
car polish. So that car polish didn't knock off any of the facets. See if I can really see the facets up close. Let's see if I can take this out of here. Can you see the facets in there?
Yeah.
It looks
No.
like a
There you go. Now you're getting in focus. Yeah.
looks like a faceted stone. I really like
Yeah,
that.
That's pretty cool.
That's pretty
Great
cool.
job, Scott.
So there, we all learned something at the same time. And that's just
Outstanding.
polished with the car polished and the 1500 grit micro mesh pad by hand.
You
And there's no,
should take that and stick a brooch pin on the back of it. Now you got a brooch.
yep.
Very cool. Very cool.
So,
Outstanding demo, Scott.
so there, we all learned something together tonight. Thanks to Mr. Duxbury. One other thing I did too, when I made this mandrel, I made it a hair too small. One wrap of blue painter's tape is all it took to make it the right size.
Nice.
So
I have to tell you, it's a wonderful feeling to be able to have created something that creates this much interest. I really mean it. That's wood turning and sharing, and that's what it's all about.
Yep.
absolutely.
It's a great jig, though, Jim. Great jig.
Well,
That's one of the things I've been impressed with all the wood turners I've come across, is they're also willing to help and share.
Very
love it.
true.
Well, I
Not
appreciate
like
it.
fishermen.
Well, with this group it is.
Well, it depends on what fisherman you were with.
Yeah.
Some of us share our secrets, some of us don't. But I really appreciate you guys giving me some suggestions. Because I had never thought about doing that like we just did it. That turned out pretty cool.
Great job, Scott.
Yes,
Yes,
very
fantastic.
nice, very nice.
I can tell you, man, I had one heck of a trip, man. This was really.
Look at him, he's still, look at him,
Hang
he's still
on,
tripping.
Captain.
So one other suggestion, if you can't get those nice pieces of granite from your local building supplies, you know, the machine surface on your table saw works really good too for flattening stuff. Put your sandpaper on there. I wouldn't glue it down, but hold it down and use that as
Beautiful
well.
Beautiful project, really great.
What about Corian?
Corian works good too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, you can get the scraps of Corian at, I want to say Lowe's or Home Depot, but I'm not supposed to say that. And you get the little 2x2 scraps and you can make some nice parts and pieces
Yeah.
out of it.
So
Don't tell them I sent you. Don't tell them I sent you, okay?
So those pieces of granite I had, they were actually throwing those in the garbage can.
Oh, I know. I got a friend that works there, and he was, after he found out I did pens with Corian, he was a hog on it. He would collect all the 1/2-inch 3x3s he could, and he made pens like crazy. So, all right, thank you, Scott. Very good demo tonight.